Hello, everyone. We are at week 5. We're halfway through our term, and I have been really excited reading your reports and listening to your dialogues. Speaking of dialogues, week 5 is about dialogue and the philosophy of dialogue through Martin Buber. And this week is one of the last weeks where we have a single philosopher kind of that we are diving into. Next week, we will kind of look at social responsibility and philosophies of social ethics. And we do a lot more applied ethics as the term goes on from there. So when you are now writing your reports, I'm going to be looking for a lot more complexity. I'm going to be looking for how you're talking about consequentialism or dialogical ethics and utilitarianism and dentology, all of the different things we've been talking, and then keep applying and layering them in. So on that note, this week we're looking at the conversation through Martin Buber, and I have a lot of different resources that you could look at, including this video is one of them. I did put an image up to kind of, for those of you who like a visual representation of what we are looking at, and there's kind of this spectrum where we have I-it relationship and the I-thou relationship, or the idea of monologue versus dialogue. And what Martin Buber was talking about and what we want to apply to our communication ethics class is really trying to figure out what is happening in a conversation that considers the other person as an entity of value, and not just a means to our own ends. And we've talked a lot about conversation. You've had a lot of things you've been digesting and reporting and talking about what is happening, how to listen and conversations. And I'm really thinking now, like, how do we take all that and add this next layer? Last week, we looked at W.E.B. Du Bois, and that was really to understand your own identity and his incredible philosophy of double consciousness, and how society and others and family are defining who you are based on whatever it is, that labels that get put on you, right? There's all these different labels that are assigned to you. Some of them, you want those labels and you're happy to get them. And others, when people put them on you, it's through their own worldview and their own perspective. And sometimes they minimize or marginalize or in other words, do not see you as a whole person, but put you in a box or slot you into their worldview or perspective. And that can be really dehumanizing. So as we step into this week, now that we understanding how do we understand our own identity versus how society or others want to see you? Now that we're in a conversation, how are we being treated, and how are we treating others, and what is our responsibility to another person in a conversation? So let's talk about that I-it, I-thou. When Buber talks about I-it is really identifying that the other person, I and it, is really an object, and they are objective. We are objectifying them, and somehow we are using the conversation, and we think of that other as a tool to get what we want, or to we want them to either agree with us to boost our own identity or worldview. And there's not really a consideration of the other as a complete individual, but more looking, the it is to that person in the conversation is a means to our own end. And there we are, we're back at Kant, and why this is where we start layering things in that Kantian says that people, it should not be used, should be respected and not be used as a means to our own end. So I guess thinking about different relationships you're in, how are you sometimes used as an it and not a thou? And so like you get hired to do a job, and you are reimbursed, you are paid, and you are treated as a tool for that job, for that business or corporation or whoever hired you for their own purpose. But how does the job recognize you as more than just an an it, but sees you as a whole entity into itself? So when Martin Buber talks about the I-thou relationship, we are moving on that spectrum towards the dialogue. And the dialogue is really is considering empathy, it's considering this idea of trustworthiness or goodwill. And how do I demonstrate that through dialogue, through conversation? And Martin Buber is a religious philosopher. So he's really thinking of the I-thou relationship, that when I treat the other person in a respectful and whole way, not just as a tool for what I need, then I am having a spiritual connection that pulls me towards a more divine understanding of what it means to be alive. Whatever that spiritual relationship is, the I-thou is about dignity and respect, and we can apply the golden rule. And there's a reciprocity that's happening that is very mindful to the present moment. So when I'm in a conversation, even if I am entering the conversation with something that I need, whatever it is I need to get time off of work. I need this other person to come to an event, or I want someone to vote. Whatever it is that I need that entered me into that conversation, there's the I-thou, Martin Buber says, that I must be completely open, mindful, and curious about what the other person needs and is bringing to that conversation to move forward towards a respectful conclusion. And the journey is the I-thou relationship. So Kant says treat others as autonomous and rational, and that person has something of value that they can bring, and to not use that other person in a manipulative way to get what you want. So if Kant and Buber have, even though they're coming from very different religious backgrounds, they are kind of working in the same kind of way. And there's a lot of similarities to how they perceive what should be happening in a conversation. So on that note, there was something about Kant I wanted to add before I move on from Kant. Oh my gosh, I got to remember what I wanted to say about Kant. Okay, it's going to come to me. I'm sorry that I can't remember in this exact moment. But going back to W.B.E. Du Bois and double consciousness, and when we look at different groups of people who experience marginalized experiences, racism, sexism, experiences of hate or violence, we want to look at what is happening and the social responsibility of an interpersonal encounter that isn't echoing these kind of manipulative and hateful narratives that are often created by the greater culture of a society. So I'm kind of curious as we enter into these kind of holidays, since our classes this fall, or how we enter into different traditions, whether they're religious or national traditions. What are these rules or norms uh, of these traditions that are working for or against a I-thou relationship? And I'm kind of curious what your perspective is on that. So, I-it is kind of the one way, it's more propaganda, it's more manipulative or exploitive of the other on one, and the I-thou is trying to find unity and mutuality and trust through the relationship. So thinking about those things as we are talking about week 6, we want to think about what is the quality of our conversations and how is someone interacting with us, but then how are we returning that? And what do you think of the relationship to others? And when I say others, we can expand that, not just people, but animals, nature, or a religious experience or a spiritual experience that is more of a dialogue instead of something being just there for us to use. So what is that quality of that interaction? And what conditions? So this is what conditions would you need in a conversation to feel that you are being more towards that I-thou dialogue? What are those norms or conditions you would need in an interaction for yourself? And what would you be willing to do or adapt to towards the other? So when I think about those things, I have a video, let's watch it. This is a great example where there is a complete disconnect in the conversation, and we can apply it to what we are talking about this week, and it's from Big Bang Theory. So let's see, where is my... Okay, I think this should do it. Yes. All right, let's watch this video. Hopefully.
Play. 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 Play.
What are you doing?
Trying to use a Jedi mind trick to control Stephen Hawking. Play. Play. Ugh. He must be wearing a tinfoil hat or something.
I did a bad thing.
Does it affect me?
No.
Then suffer in silence. Play. 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 Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking.
Penny started taking a class. She wrote a paper. She didn't want me to read it. I went behind her back. I read it anyway.
Stephen Hawking hates me.
I don't know what to do. The paper's terrible. But if I tell her, she'll know that I read it, and she'll get really mad.
I was beating him so bad he doesn't want to be friends anymore. Why does everyone love me except Stephen Hawking?
Is it possible we're having 2 different conversations?
How would I know? I'm not listening to you.
Hang on. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Chess clock. We each get 5 minutes to talk about our problems. We'll take turns. Each turn will consist of a statement and a helpful response from the friend. Begin.
I humiliated Stephen Hawking in a game of words with friends. He stopped playing, and now we're not friends anymore.
He's probably busy. You're worried about nothing. Give it a couple more days. I'm sure he'll play, and you'll see that everything's fine. My turn. I can't let Penny hand in a bad paper, but how do I tell her it's bad without letting her know that I read it?
Beats me. Now, I know Hawking's not busy because I can see he's playing other people right now.
Maybe since you're so good, he's taking his time to meet the challenge. I want Penny to enjoy it.
Wallace told me he's a big baby. I didn't know that, and I played extract for 82 points. Oh, it's all Amy's fault. She told me to play it. I've got to cut her loose.
Sheldon, I wasn't done talking. She hands in the paper tomorrow. I know I could help her, and she's my girlfriend. I should be allowed to help her. Why aren't I allowed to help her?
Yeah, I hear you, brother.
No. You need to give me some advice.
Fine. Women, huh?
No. Specific to my situation.
Blonde women, huh?
Empathetic.
It sucks to be you.
I quit.
Leonard, wait. No. I listen to your dumb thing. Leonard, come back. Leonard, come back.
What?
Oh, of course. It only works on the weak-minded.
All right, I'm back. All right, so I'll post the link to this video just in case something got messed up with the sound, and I don't know what's showing and not showing up anymore. Zoom's got a lot of blocking. So what I really think's interesting about this is both of them are trying to figure out these other relationships. Leonard's trying to figure out how to be there for Penny, but respect with her. And Stephen Hawking and Sheldon, he's trying to figure out this relationship. And then they're in this conversation that has completely gone off the rails and is more of an I-it. And both of them, even Leonard is in his wanting to support Penny. You guys could weigh in on this. Even though she didn't ask for help, is not really building trust in his relationship with Penny by wanting to interfere with her own learning process. So I think that that video has so many layers to it in the way that it can help us understand the different means that we are in relationships with each other, and how does conversation show up? How do our interactions show up in a way? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as well. Okay, so this was kind of what I wanted to make sure I just touch base with you all this week 5. We're halfway through the term. Good job, everybody. And remember, I'm available if you want to jump on a call and talk about any of these great topics. Bye-bye.